heard that right. It's the final word. And we have in the building no other
the final word
than the president himself, Mr. Kevin Grant Jr. and Mr. J Tuck. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
I'm excited to talk some football today. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, man. It's like it's Father's Day, man. We ain't got no sports going on, man. So we had to keep cooking with this football content.
the final word.
I was watching the USFL game. It's like, nah, this ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah, it's that time.
Oh, you a football sicko if you're taking in that USFL, man. You a football sicko for that one.
I was waiting.
Look, I was with the XFL, and then after the XFL season ended, I was like, well, that's a wrap for me when it comes to at least the professional football on the field this year. So,
yeah, I almost found myself watching it though, Kevin. Like I almost did. Like, but I just watched the replay of Kansas City and Buffalo. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It is not that bad. It is not that bad.
The final word.
Look, that in between time between now and training camp, boy, man, listen, fiending for some football, any kind of football.
The final word.
The final word. And we the ones that got to deliver it. And that's why you here. Like, for real, that's why you here. That's one of the reasons. Like, we know we gonna have a good conversation with you to kind of, kick back and talk ball.
Oh yeah, for sure. Look, between the Cowboys and their kind of off time right now, and me covering the Mavericks as well with the NBA draft and stuff. Big Game James know how much I cover the Mavs. I know he loves some NBA too, so it's real no off season for me when it comes to this time of the year for sure.
Yeah.
About the Mavs,
I want to ask you, and what you think about that Clint Capella?
I mean, I wouldn't mind the move if the Mavericks made that move, to be honest with you, because they could use a center right now that can provide them some rebounding on both ends, a little bit of shot blocking. And for me, I want them to kind of build, inside out when it comes to how they're rebuilding some of this defense. So if Atlanta likes to play ball with Dallas when it comes to trades. So if they are feeling like they want to give up 15 and Clint Capella, to go to 10 where the Mavs are, yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. And it would make a lot of sense for them to do that given the position that the Mavs are in right now.
Hey, when we start talking about the Mavs, though, boss, he might hit that fight button with me and Big Game James. We got something to put it out with Mavs, bro.
Hold on, wait, because you a Mavs fan, right?
I'm a dog. I'm a Mavs fan too. Yeah,
so
we gotta get somebody up out of here.
The final word.
I'm like, why y'all fighting? I was trying to figure out the clue. Okay. Yeah, and Tuck, you from Kansas City and you a Mavs fan, you got to give me that background, big dog.
Yeah, but even though I lived in Kansas City, I grew up in Austin, you know what I'm saying? So I'm Texas bound. My dad lives in Texas, so I got Texas in my veins. So, I've been a Mavs fan way back since Sean Bradley, Jason Kidd, it was bad, you know what I'm saying? So it's a team I always roll with, but, we got some to talk about because I'm not happy with the move that they made this past year. So I know Big Bang disagree. Big Bang disagree, but I'm just like, nah, bro, he ain't it. So,
hey.
I like to see a fight. We might get to that fight because I love to see a fight. I'm messing like that.
I should have even told you.
I like to see. That's the thing. You just sitting around, that's gonna bother me.
All right. Hey, Big, you might have to come back. Or fix your mic.
I just wanna run it up. Can we check or something? I've been really in the field, let up, yeah. I've been really in the field, let her rush, I let her feel. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Don't need no deals, I make the deal. Have to take it to.
And if it was up to me, if it was up to little old me to make a pick, it would probably go a little something like this. And with the 17th pick of the 2020 Dallas Cowboys NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys select CeeDee Lamb. Oh.
What a moment it was. What a moment that was.
Chris, George, I see you.
I will move down.
The smart thing would be to move down, but the Cowboys historically don't.
Boss could be a trade down here with Justin. We got to trade. We got to trade. We got to trade.
I said this is the place to move
We were
down.
just here talking
Yo,
Justin
listen,
Fields.
I said it loud and clear. This is the place to move down.
Go hard, or go home. Go home. Go hard,
Yes.
go home. Go hard, or go home.
Happy Father's Day.
Go hard, or go home.
Happy Father's Day, my brothers.
Like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard.
I love Parsons as a rush defensive end, right? If you draft him and you put him on the end, turn him into another DeMarcus Ware. Let him rush the quarterback, get upfield, and create damage to the other opposing offense.
We got the
look,
pick.
man, here it is.
We got the pick.
Yeah, this got to be Parsons. Like, Parsons the best player available.
Go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head, I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, know you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now.
So the Cowboys just selected Jake Ferguson with pick 129. Hey, I'm good. I love the pick. I love the player. I know that a lot of people will say that this is probably a reach. This is about where I had Jake Ferguson. Really solid player from Wisconsin. He can do all of it. He can block. He can run routes. He can actually make people miss in the open field.
Have a race car like a Atari now. Call filling up, I need product again. Treat the business like a playground, might slide on you. Don't me wrong, might slide on you. Do a backflip, cause I'm mad rich. I'm the definition of what that is. Go hard, or go home. 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 Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home.
All right, we have Mr. Kevin Gray himself, Mr. J Tuck himself, and the regular crew with the final word. So before we get started, I want to first kind of talk and show who we dealing with today. Because after this clip, I begin to refer to Mr. Kevin Gray as the president. So y'all check this out. This is what y'all dealing with when you're dealing with Mr. Kevin Gray.
It doesn't feel like the Cowboys are in the business of doing that when they just wait until the second and third waves of free agency when most of the most talented guys are gone and they try to sell us. Here's where I'm at. Because I just got to keep going now. Here's where I'm at, Peyton. I'm tired of the Cowboys playing you and I for stupid. Woo! Like, we're not dumb.
No, we're not.
We've seen this movie
That's
for
why the fans are mad.
The last 10 years. Like, they think the Cowboys fans are tired of their intelligence being insulted by this franchise. And I think I mentioned that for a lot of people who are tired of getting played for stupid. Because we're not. And the Cowboys continue to put themselves in position to make themselves look like they're the smartest guys in the room. Catboy thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. By trying to win the cap year over year. You're not. You continue to put this team in position to be in mediocre. Let's just win the NFC East. That's good enough for us. That's not good enough. That's not what the standard is for this football team. From the 847, all talk. You'll be watching every game just like every other Cowboys fan. You're damn right.
Yes.
You know why? Because I'm a third-generation Cowboys fan. I'm a journalist. I'm a broadcaster. But more than anything, I'm a fan. It's hard to quit the narcotic. Okay? When they've won Super Bowls, when they've won championships, when they've gotten close, 2016, when they've been able to put themselves in position, 2014, where you thought you had a Super Bowl championship team. I'm not going to quit it. It's hard to quit your favorite football team when your family's giving blood, sweat, and tears to the organization. So you're right. I'm going to be watching just like every other Cowboy fan. So don't come at me talking about you all talk. You're not going to be watching. You're right. I'm going to be, number one, I cover the team, so I have to watch the games, okay? So I will be there watching because it's hard to not. What we're doing here We're trying to keep this organization accountable. That's why we're talking, at least me. That's why we're talking.
At least me.
In the way that we are, because you don't want to see this team continue to pedal in the mediocrity of not having won a championship.
Your man gets to listen on the G-Bag Nation all week on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. Trust me, you don't want to miss out.
No, you don't. Let's go. Woo, man, we had to kick it off right.
Oh man! Wow!
I gotta ask a question. I gotta ask a question, Kevin. Did you get pulled into the office?
Yes. Yeah, man. Come on, man.
Hell no, nope. Sure didn't. Sure didn't.
I love it.
Love it. That's first of all, that's incredible. Thank you for that, number one, because there's nothing more embarrassing than watching yourself back after you're doing something like that. It's like, oh wow, you really did say all that stuff, didn't you? Like, you really actually said all that stuff.
Yeah.
But look, man, that's me to my core. Like I'm a third generation Dallas Cowboy fan. Had, my late uncle Willie Towns, bless his heart, rest in peace. He played for Tom Landry, and like first and foremost, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And then of course everything else that comes with that. But I just had to let that out for Stephen Jones at that particular time, at that moment. That's what I felt.
I loved it.
And Chris Arnold poor Chris Arnold sitting there next to me like, dog, like he just let me go. He felt me in my moment. He just let me have it. So I appreciate the 3-time Hall of Famer for letting me have my moment there.
Now, from that moment on, I began to call you president, because first of all, I loved, like my boy Law always say, I didn't like it, I loved it. Like Law always says that, and it just it just showed your passion, because I tweeted after that I'm a second generation Cowboy fan, and I get in my feelings. It's like you third generation, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you go around the circle. Like, can you explain like what drives you as a third generation Cowboy fan? Then we go around the circle. We go talk some ball.
Yeah, man. It's like I was saying, my late uncle Willie Towns, he went to the University of Tulsa, played for Tom Landry, was a starter in the Ice Bowl, had a key sack and key play in that game. And, that's my grandmother's brother on my dad's side. So that was passed down from her to my dad to me. And I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. And although the Chiefs were obviously there as, the NFL franchise that, that's there, I always grew up a Cowboys fan and had family that lives in, the DFW area as well. And that was just always instilled in me. And, my earliest memories of watching the Cowboys, of course, when they beat the brakes off the Bills in Pasadena, to win the Super Bowl, 52-17, something like that. And like that was like those were my favorite, memories growing up. And Emmitt Smith was one of my favorite Cowboys, like the triplets between Troy and Michael and Emmett. The Great Wall of Dallas, with 2-A and Larry Allen and Nate Newton. I pinch myself every time I sit next to Nate Newton, because I used to watch him.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, so just be able to sit next to him and talk with him, it's just, it's just surreal. But yeah, man, it was just passed down to me when I was a kid, and I live a dream being able to talk about the team that I love growing up and watching and being as close as I am now to them. It's just it's a dream come true, to be honest with you.
Big.
Yo.
It's on you.
Okay. I mean, I'm letting Kevin talk about his his love for his boys. I mean, I feel him. I mean, I don't know if I'm third generation. I can say I'm seventh generation, because I was watching them in the 70s. So I'm like 7th generation. But I mean, I felt that that speech that you gave early in the very beginning, because that's where I've been. I ain't calling them Cowboy. I be calling them baby nuts. Yeah, so that's what I call them. But I will say, I want to ask you this, Kev. Since I'm not saying it's a new day in Dallas, right? But the things that you have been discussing, well, a lot of, like you said, a lot of us have been feeling, right? How each year you're not going all in, you're just playing, you're getting mediocre players, you're getting average players that you're adding with the team, and it's just kind of not really getting us over the hump. It's just keeping us competitive. I don't like that spirit. So this off season, you see they go out and trade for Brandon Cooks. They get Gilmore as well via trade. You see they drafted a defensive tackle in the first round since '91. You see, they moved on from Kellen Moore, which was, I thought, the biggest move out of everything, because I didn't think they were doing that. Kind of give me your thoughts now about what you feel about, the Pulse. Do you feel like this is all in season from your perspective because of the moves that have been made, even in the draft, the people they brought in? Does this seem like an all-in season to you? And do you also feel that Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat with that?
It's interesting because, I feel like they went all in their way. I mean, let's think about it. They got Stephon Gilmore for, a late round, a 5th round pick, Brandon Cooks, same way. They went all in their version, if you will. They didn't sign, a big time free agent with a lot of money. We were thought, Odell Beckham Jr. may have been that guy with all the flirtation that was going on with those two parties. But the moves that they made, my only contention with this team has ever been, this team drafts well. Will McClay and this organization, they draft well year after year after year, but they never supplemented the team with the kind of players like a Gilmore, like a Cooks that could really fortify your roster and possibly put you over the top. And I think they finally did that, but they were able to do it the way that they wanted to based off of, the capital that they wanted to use and the money that they felt was available to them, given the fact that, they've got some big ticket items coming up. Micah Parsons at the end of this coming season is going to be the highest paid defensive player in the history of the National Football League, with all due respect to Aaron Donald and Nick Bosa. Also CeeDee Lamb up for an extension now. Trayvon up for an extension now. Dak could get one at any point as well. So they've got some things they got to take care of, because if they don't, it's going to be a little bit more prohibitive for them in the future to be able to get some things done. But, for Mike McCarthy, this is year 4 of a 5-year contract for him. And, you mentioned all the things that the Cowboys did this offseason. For me, the biggest move was Dan Quinn choosing the Cowboys once again, because the fact that he continues to choose this team, he's had opportunities to go elsewhere, to be able to be a head coach again, but he believes in what's being built here, and he's turned this entire defensive culture around. And for him and this defense, they're going to be a major reason why the Cowboys are successful this year. I guess what I'm surprised with McCarthy is not so much that he decided to take over play calling, but he decided to do it at this stage of his career, because, as a Super Bowl champion, as someone who's been there, done that, if he felt like the best way for this team to win was him being the play caller going forward, I can respect that and saying, look, if I'm going to go down because I did it my way at the end, versus having to worry about, whether Kellen Moore is going to do the kinds of things that I want him to do. He is taking control of the reins. The only question I have for him is, the last time you hired one of your boys around here was Mike Nolan a few years ago, and we know how that went. And I think we all knew once he brought Brian Schottenheimer in as his offensive, analyst, whatever you wanted to call him at that particular point. It's like, oh, if Kellen Moore is gone, we know who's going to be the OC. And sure enough, Schottenheimer's the OC. So we'll see for Mike McCarthy. But to his credit, I like him taking control of his situation, given this is a huge year for him in this football team.
Yes, and it is. Technically, this is his first year with his own plan.
Ooh.
It goes all the way back to if you install it, you call it, right? So that means that there was some type of tensions in the room. And I don't foresee Brian Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy having those type of issues on the offensive side of the coin. Now, granted, a lot of people will say, well, the Cowboys offense collectively finished in the top 5 with Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore. I believe this right here, organically, that was going to happen. Dak Prescott looks and appears that he was always going to get better, right? And we sit back and we can look at this front office, and they tend to lean on learning on the job, right? They did it with Jason Garrett. We seen it again with this dude named Kellen Moore. And that could be a good philosophy for mom and pops. But just like you said in your opening statement, man, with that great rant, man, that was one of the greatest of all time. It's the front office, man. It's the front office, man. We can continue to move the furniture around on the Titanic or the deck of the Titanic, but it still was going down. You didn't change anything. Allow these guys to have their own philosophy, scheme, and system put into place, and just sit back And on top of that, even with their philosophy, what you just said about, they doing it their way, we got $22 million, right? Available. I still think that we can still make some moves. Now, it was reported today, that Tony Pollard is willing to get rid of some of that money to help this team out. So hopefully we will see down the line of what they can do. But I truly believe that we have enough money to go ahead and pay our guys, and even enough money to go out there and get another playmaker, if granted.
I mean, yeah, this is all up to this front office and what they want to do. I mean, there's still some things that you look at from a running back perspective. You mentioned Tony Pollard there being RB1 now. Are you going to find another backup? Maybe you feel good about Malik Davis. You feel good about, Ronald Jones. There could be some help that you could find there. I'm still wondering who is going to take over at that left guard spot. I have my own thoughts on that. I'm sure we'll get into some of that as the course of the show, goes on. But this team is in a perfect position to capitalize on what they've done this offseason, but more importantly, set themselves up for hopefully a future that keeps a window open for them, given, what they've been able to build organically through the draft, whether it be CeeDee Lamb, whether it be Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs is a second-round pick. They've been able to build their stars through the draft, and now it's time for that to pay off, given what you're able to bring in. And if you can, you've been able to put yourself in a great position for the next couple of years, even with the Eagles and the 49ers, being at the top alongside the Cowboys in the NFC right now.
Well, I'll say this, man. If anyone in the world can understand my struggles of being a Cowboys fan in Kansas City, it's Kevin. Now, Kevin, you gone. I'm still here, man. So right now, I constantly feel like that Squidward meme where I'm sitting looking out my window watching all these Chiefs fans celebrate and, parade around.
Listen.
It's rough. It's rough, man.
Listen.
It's rough, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Kevin definitely understands. But, to kind of go back to talking about Mike McCarthy, and as you all said, I feel like this is going to be the first year we get to see what this team fully looks like under Mike McCarthy. We always kind of had that extra layer of Kellen Moore from the Jason Garrett era. Now he's fully clean house. He has his guys. He has his philosophy. And Mike McCarthy's even been saying in some of the interviews, we're going to play football the way we want to play. And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, you've been the head coach for almost 3 years. What do you mean getting back to playing football how we want to play? So I think Mike McCarthy is going to have a new spark. And speaking of Kansas City, right? Everybody was kind of down and out on Andy Reid when he left Philadelphia. He came to Kansas City and just got a new spark. So sometimes you need a new change of scenery. And that's like, I want to see, is Mike McCarthy the guy? And there's only one way to fully analyze, is he the future head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, is by giving him full control. So we'll see. But here's the fun part, Cowboys Nation. If he doesn't pass and he fails, well, then you got Dan Quinn right there waiting. So I feel like the Cowboys, from a coaching standpoint, is in a good situation.
McCarthy's always talking about playing complementary football, right? And he's got a chance to see this defense and this offense play off of one another. Now he's got one of the other questions that I have is, for him taking over as primary play caller here, is what have been the questions about McCarthy in the past? Game management, situational football, his inability to not manage that the way that you would want to, given certain situations that we see from game to game. How much more now will he be able to either delegate some of that responsibility or ensure that he's locked in exactly what he needs to do? And maybe him being the play caller allows him to be that much more focused on what he sees situationally to ensure that he's got this team in the best position. That will be one of the things that I watch for most as the course of these games go on, is how does he manage game to game, situation to situation, his ability to put this team in the best position to succeed game in and game out.
Yeah, and when Aisha was on the Final Word the other night, she had mentioned the new hire of the gentleman from the coast. And I didn't catch his name. I haven't researched him yet.
I got it right here.
Okay, so I guess he's going to be more like your game managing coach, and then he also just brought in the lady who's going to do the analytics aspect. So maybe Mike McCarthy's going to outsource that. But like you said, Kevin, when he hired his homeboy and Mike Nolan, things kind of fell through the cracks. But John Parks is his name. So I haven't researched him, but yeah, it looks like he kind of knows where his weaknesses are, and so for him to go actually and get help in that category, it definitely shows. So I feel like Mike McCarthy's going to get back to doing what he does best, is play calling. And what I'm personally excited about the most, y'all, is seeing Mike McCarthy, who's been a quarterback coach guru throughout his career, finally be hip to hip with our quarterback in Dak Prescott, because that's always been my frustration when it came to Mike McCarthy, is like, I don't want Kellen talking to Dak. You know what I'm saying? I don't want the court. Like, I want Mike McCarthy, who's been with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and Montana, like, and all these types of guys, really being connected at the hip with our quarterback. And you're starting to see that already in camp, where Dak and Mike are having this more of a bond when it comes to communication with the offense. So that's what I'm excited to see, is more about that relationship, if anything.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick, Kevin. You know, I agree with you on a couple of points, but I wanted to kind of mention something that I don't think that as a media people have really properly defined. We talk about complementary football, but we don't ever really define what complementary football means. And, you know, in my sense of what Mike McCarthy means is that we are going to run the ball when we need to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball when we need to pass the ball situationally. Going back to last year, although we had a very explosive offense with Kellen Moore, statistically speaking, there were situational discrepancies where we should have ran the football and we tried to pass the football. Like we're backed up to our own goal line, as an example, and I've seen us do this a couple different times, and we go spread and we throw the football. Like, that's not the time to throw the football, right? You on the 2-yard line and you play action pass for Dak Prescott. That's not the time to throw the football. And it's not just because of field position. It's just because your defense just got pounded on a 14-play drive. You need to give those guys a little bit of time to rest. And also, to your point, Kevin, you know, I really agree with you, and I think that the same things will kind of make or break this season. Looking at the left guard position, looking at the running back position, I think those were positions that the Cowboys could have went all in on in the draft and are via free agency to a point, which the Cowboys didn't, because they trust their guys, or they're trying to spread out their cap budget, or whatever other internal reasons there may be. I think that Mike McCarthy has really set himself up to be really, really good in terms of management, right? Because he has Brian Schottenheimer, you have Parks coming in with the analytics. So I think he's delegated the responsibilities enough to keep him honest and also help him maintain the head coach role pretty effectively. So my prediction about this, and you know, some people may not agree, I think that Mike McCarthy will do pretty well overall in terms of managing the OC position. I think that the make or break when we get into the playoffs and how deep we go in the playoffs will be a couple of those key positions that we could have, quote unquote, drafted or went all in on, that we trusted certain positions here, and see if those guys can get the job done or not. I think that will be the telltale. And then progressing from that point, now the Cowboys have to make a decision next year if they keep Mike McCarthy. Do we go all in because this is this guy's last year?
It's to your point, OC. I was thinking about, you know, the situational football, the complementary football, and maybe go back to the Green Bay game. and Mike McCarthy throwing down his headset in frustration, and, you know, all the things that came out of that. And then you think about, you know, the offense, you know, and we kind of talked about this a little bit already, you know, statistically how good they were last year, but the two words that come to mind for me are efficiency and effectiveness. The offense was extremely efficient for the most part, but there was a lack of effectiveness at times, in which you saw, to OC's point about the complementary football and the ability to let your defense rest when they needed to, being able to have the kinds of play calls and situations that not only gets your quarterback into a rhythm, offensively gets into a rhythm, but more importantly, how do you set a tone for a football game based on what you're trying to dictate to defenses? And I think at times Kellen Moore tried to get cute and it didn't work out, and there was a lack of effectiveness that you saw with this offense. I hope for McCarthy that not only the efficiency that remains there, but the effectiveness of what he's trying to do, game plan to game plan versus his opponents, is there as well. And that the quarterback, to Tuck's point, being in lockstep with him, is growing and maturing throughout the course of the year, so that by the time you get to the playoffs, you're hitting a stride that allows everyone to be on the same page. And the other thing is, which I found to be very interesting, he talked about during this minicamp and OTA period about playing with purpose, play purpose, which, you know, common sense would tell you, yeah, every play should have a purpose to it, have a goal and a definition that you want to have in order to succeed. But he made that to be a very key, you know, phrase to use throughout OTAs and minicamp, was play purpose. So that's another thing I'll be watching for, you know, this upcoming season too, is what kind of purpose do they not only have for what they're trying to achieve, but it's everyone now on the same page. Because if I hear another time about CD and Dak, not being on the same page, or CD and Gallup, or excuse me, Dak and Gallup not on the same page, like that shouldn't be happening going into what now, year 8, for Dak Prescott and his receivers. He's had enough time to get all that ironed out, and I want to see that remain as consistent as possible this upcoming season for sure.
Kevin,
no doubt.
Wouldn't that be not even intentional, but a shot at Kellen Moore, right? Because when he keep discussing purpose, right? Sometimes you can't talk about how good your new woman is without talking about how bad your last woman was, right? It's not that you try to bring up the past, but could that be kind of what's going on with purpose and him singing that song on purpose?
Context matters.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I hope he's not taking the the LeBron passive aggressive route. Like, if you got something to say, just say it. Like, if you felt like there was an issue with your purpose of your play calling, situational calls based on what you're trying to do to attack defenses, then that's something that you need to say so that everyone is clear about what your objective is here with this offense. And if that is the case, then I'm okay with that. And to the point that was made earlier about him going into year 4 of this 5-year deal, he has a chance to put his stamp and his imprint. And this, to Law's point, this is his first year of running things the way that he believes this team will be successful, and things not being forced upon him by having an offensive coordinator that he didn't choose. Now he's chosen his offensive coordinator. Yeah. He's got what he believes is his system that will make him and his team successful, and you got to let that play out based on what he's trying to do here.
And no doubt to that. And when we even go back to 2020, with Mike Nolan and all of those boys that was there, we still had some old ties to the Jason Garrett administration and Coach Rob Marinelli, because a lot of the players were resisting. They didn't want to buy into even what Mike Nolan was talking about. So yes, they had to do some wholesale changes, and it worked for us by bringing in a guy by the name of Dan Quinn, who we win 12 or more games every year. So I can see that we are growing. On top of that, it's a thin line between winning and losing. Think about this. The 2 games that we did lose last season to the Jacksonville Jaguars as well as the Green Bay Packers, we were up multiple touchdowns in those games. We win those 2 games. If we play with plan, purpose, and reasonings of why we do a certain thing, then we would be 14-3. Who knows what would have happened in the playoff? Maybe we could have
made the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
or it would have been a softer schedule. It would have definitely been a softer
situation for us. So, hey, look, the opportunity is very thin here, and I love it. But Mike McCarthy, I believe he can see where this team can be at, and that's why he say those things. Remember this, write this down, people in the chat. Everyone have a reason, but results are what matter.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part when it comes to Kellen Moore Law. It's like when you look on the surface, everything looks good. Everything looks good to go. And so sometimes when we're trying to argue it, it's like the average fan who goes to ESPN or PSF and sorts the stats, but hey, we're top ranked here, top in scoring, right? But when you really roll up your sleeves and get down to the nooks and crannies of our offense, there was a lot of head scratching moments. Case in point, I just did a film breakdown on Jaron Kearse, and we remember the Christmas Eve. Jaron Kearse comes out and has a great interception over Quez Watkins. We shifted all the momentum, and then here comes a reverse pass with Dak Prescott and Turpin, and we take on this monster stack, and we lose almost 15 to 20 yards. And so it's just like, why? And I feel like under Mike McCarthy, we won't have. Now, there's going to be some head scratching moments because it's just in Mike McCarthy's DNA, right? Yeah. I just feel like for the most part, we want to sit back every game and just ask why. The whole reason what they even sparked me coming up with the no identity video is because I was asking why. I was like, what is our offense? What are we actually doing? Because I couldn't understand it. So I feel like that's not going to be the case. I feel like things are going to be simplified with this text coast approach and really put our offensive players in the best ways to make ability and use their God-given ability and make plays on Sunday, which I'm excited about.
I love that point because one of the things that.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. No, that was one of the things that, as you were talking about that, it made me think about, because one of the things I asked Brian Broaddus this one time. I said, look, what did Kellen Moore ever define himself as what he was as a play caller here? And to my knowledge, he never really defined himself in what he was to his core, philosophically when it came to what he believed on offense. Like, he was a really good play caller, has some really nice, cute plays, that kind of thing. But I never knew what Kellen Moore's identity was as a play caller in terms of his philosophy. Never knew that. Never got a good answer to it. And I think, at least for Mike McCarthy, and you talked about the whole Tex Coast thing, at least I know what Mike McCarthy's bread and butter is, what he believes in offensively, what he believes into his core about what he wants to see from a play-to-play, from a schematic standpoint, which is he's a West Coast offensive guy. So at least I have a foundation to work with. I felt like I never had that with Kellen Moore during his time here, even with how successful this offense was from a statistical standpoint. I never knew what he was to his core, and I think that bothered me most. At least now I know exactly what I need to know based on what he's trying to do and accomplish here, at least in that way.
Yeah, the only sidebar note I was going to mention is that I think that the thing that Kellen maybe got caught up in, and some of the fans, when we look at all of the 40 burgers and, touchdowns and big plays, we mistake growth for health. And I think that offensively speaking, it's a difference between putting up big numbers and being a healthy, fluid offense. And I think that Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, will lean toward the side of health. I mean, my ankle could be growing. That doesn't mean it's healthy, right? It could be swelling. So, at the end of the day, I think that the health of the offense in terms of being able to efficiently and effectively execute on key downs and control and close out games, that's what I think is going to be the huge difference. We actually might not be as good in terms of putting up as many numbers, in my opinion, this year. We may not put up as many points, but I think that as an offense, in terms of his philosophy, I think we'll be a lot healthier.
Agree. Well, let me echo this right quick. It's not like we throwing out everything.
Right.
From Schottenheimer's point of view, he's saying that they're keeping 70%. Yeah. That's a lot of the offense that you organically is going to keep. You only changing 30%. So I get a lot of people every time in the chat, every time I post a video, they would say, well, do you give credit to Kellen Moore for Dak Prescott positive stat? And two things can be true, right? So I just look at it like this. I just look at it like this. 70% is a lot, man.
That's
but 30%, hey, boss, they're not changing out everything. But I'm gonna tell you, 30% is a lot too, boss cowboy. Uncle Sam take 33 and a third percent. If you don't take him, if you don't pay his percentages, he will come knocking at your door. So 30% is still a lot. Now we changing a lot, but we keeping 70%.
Oh, hell
Come
no.
on, man.
Boss with a full renovation. Boss with a full renovation. You want all that killing out of there, man. You want all that killing out of there.
He want everything. Burn to the ground. Boss Cowboy boy.
You can't handle the truth. It's all fake news. It's phony stuff.
Come on, KG.
It didn't
KG,
happen.
talk to me, man. Get right with me, man. Come on, talk to me,
You
man.
are fake news.
No, look, I wanted to hear.
Boss
I wanted to hear how many more drops that he had. Like, he had all the drops and then some.
Yeah, he let him go.
I got plenty. Don't
let boss go, man. KG, I know you got my back, man. Come on, man.
No,
Come on,
no,
man.
you're right. Look, I would say the biggest thing is for Dak Prescott, because you talked about, the 70-30 split in terms of, how much their offenses they're keeping and how much, they're kind of changing. What I want from 4 is, now that you're going into year 8, how much input do you have on what you want to see from a game-to-game standpoint and what you want to be successful with? Because if you're in full control of this offense, and if Mike McCarthy is going to be walking lockstep with you throughout the course of this upcoming season and beyond, I want to know how much input Dak is having on a week-to-week basis on what he wants to do and how successful he wants to be in terms of some of the things that he's seeing, from a field standpoint, from a schematic standpoint. What are defense trying to do to attack him, and what is he inputting into this offense? So there's a golden opportunity for Dak, too, to continue to not only grow in terms of, cutting down on the turnover issue that he had, which I think was, for me, an anomaly a year ago. That's where I'll, leave that. I'm sure we'll talk about some of that, as we go on, too. But how much now does he work with Mike McCarthy on what he wants to do week in and week out, and how much control he has? I think that's going to be a huge part of this season, as well as not only that relationship growing, but what Dak wants to do and how that looks for him on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Kevin, because I think that's what Mike McCarthy's last few interviews, he was talking about how him and Dak wanted to become one. You know, he basically said, you know, he wanted to see what Dak really likes and have Dak really take control of it. So I kind of agree with you right there, Kevin, that I really want to see really Dak. Not saying he hasn't taken control of the offense or the command of the huddle, but you want to see him figure out what kind of plays he really likes and really get it in a good rhythm. Where we've seen on the last coordinator, we were getting a good rhythm. I think to touch point, we getting a good rhythm. Team plays, we moving down the field, and all of a sudden it be two weird plays, and it just stalls us. Next thing you know, we're kicking a field goal, and then we miss the field goal, and it's like, really, you know what I mean? That's what I don't want to see anymore. Any longer. That's the biggest thing, because you got it was frustrating to me, and I'm sure it was with all of the other guys, that when you see us really marching down the field after a big turnover, or you know, we stop them on a 3 and out, we get the ball, we're cooking, and then all of a sudden the weird plays start coming. I think that's the main thing I want to see. We don't got to be all surprise element. You can. But at the end of the day, I want us to be a physical team. That's what Mike McCarthy said when he first came over here. He wanted us to be physical, fast, and strong. So that's the main thing I really want to see with this offense, being a physical type offense as well. And to OC's point, run when we need to run, throw when we need to throw. But at the end of the day, we need to be physical on both sides of the ball, because that's, to me, been one of our biggest hindrances as well. We haven't been as physical full 4 quarters. Couple quarters, and then we fall off and get all soft in this. I want to see a physical football team for 4 quarters, game in and game out. I think if we can see that from at least the offensive standpoint, because I do think it's coming around on that defense we saw it the last couple of years. But I think if we can really be a full physical team on that offensive side of the ball, once again, the OC where he said, and I said this myself, I don't think we'll be dropping the 30, 40 points a game. But if we're getting the 21, 20 points a game, it's more of a mash down what we did to you. And that's really I want to see the teams leaving from us and dang, Dallas really beat us up this game. And that's what I really want to see, physical side on both sides of the ball. And I really want that offense to really bring with. So I guess that's what we're talking about, where we're filling that gap of that left guard. Because right now we don't have that left guard right now. And that's where you can say we're missing a little physicalness. Terrance Steel still kind of on the men on the right tackle. So I think that's going to be key, who we're really getting those spots to continue the mantra of us being physical. And I want to ask you right quick before I get off here, and hand it to you, Kevin, is this left guard spot has been a hard thing. I mean, you just mentioned it. It's been in the media. Everybody's talking about left guard, Tyler Smith, who's going to be it. I just asked Brian Broaddus a couple of days ago. I said, okay. He said, ask a tough question. I said, all right, I want to see Tyler Smith at left tackle, not no left guard. Talk to me. What's going to happen? He said, I like to see him there too, but he thinks he's going to be Tyler Smith at left guard and Tyron at left tackle. What's your thoughts?
Oh boy. Yeah, this is one of the points of contention for me this offseason is, look, there's several things, because I understand the folks who are in the camp of get Tyler Smith out to left tackle, do it now because he's your left tackle of the future. To which I say, I agree with you. But then I look at this front office and they told me that Tyron Smith is still part of this offensive line, and you gave him and you restructured his deal to where it's an incentive-based deal. So my man has to play in order to get paid. So if I'm going to have him out here, I want to have him at his best spot, even with the injury concerns. We know, Tyron has had, injury concerns for years, hasn't played a full season, in several years. But at the same time, if I'm going to have my best 5 out there, that's going to be comprised of, at least for me, Tyron Smith at left tackle, Tyler Smith with his flexibility at left guard, because I know he can play left tackle. But I know he's strong enough to kick inside to be able to play left guard as well. I feel good about Viability. Obviously, you got Zach Martin, who's headed to Canton, as your right guard. And Terrance Steel, when he's ready to go, when he's healthy, is your starting right tackle. I know people will say, Kevin, there's questions about him in pass protection, how good he is as a run blocker and all these things. But if you want your best 5 out there based on the depth that you have now, because I don't know about you, I don't feel confident, in Edoga just yet. I don't feel confident in Farniok, although there is some growth there for him at left guard. My best 5 is the Smith boys on the left side, Viability in the middle, Martin at right guard, and Terrance Steel when he's ready to go at right tackle. And then if you need to have some flexibility given some injury concerns, guess what you can do? Tyron get hurt, guess what you can do? kick out Tyler Smith as your left tackle, let him go to work there, and then you'd be able to have a little bit more comfortability, at least know that Farniok at least has had some experience there, can step in. But that to me is my best five is Smith boys, Biotish, Martin, Steele, and move from there. And if Tyron gets hurt, guess what? Kick Tyler out there, and you should be okay. That's just my thought. But I get where folks come from when they said they want Tyler Smith out there at left tackle. I really do.
Let me ask you this.
But Kevin, I got a question for you about that real quick. Kevin, that sounds great what you said, but what do you do right now when you don't have a healthy Terrance Steel? Who are you playing, in your opinion, at right tackle? I think that's the question of the day, because Terrance Steel is not going to be ready to play game one. And, well, let me just say this. If he is, quote-unquote, ready to play game one, it's going to be a Michael Gallup situation where you rush this guy back, his leg is not all the way right, and the guy's going to need more time. I think he's going to be on the PUP list at least the first 4 games of this season. That's my opinion. But what do you do, right, at that right tackle position? And I think maybe that's the angst, at least in my mind, on why you want to insert Farniok earlier and let him and Josh Ball battle it out, since you didn't draft a guy named Osiris out of Florida that you could have drafted anyway. That's sidebar. But like, you didn't do that, right? So now, you know, who's a better right tackle on your team than Tyron Smith, where he ended last year playing pretty good? So what do you do with the right tackle position?
Matt, well, let's go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, for me, no. I'm with OC when it comes to at the starting, because you're right. I think at the beginning of the year, based on where Terrance Steele's health is, I think the starting 5 that you'll see out there will be Tyler Smith at left tackle, Farniok at left guard, Biotish at center, Martin at right guard, and then Tyron over at right tackle. I think to start off the season. I think that's how it will go, just given where we are with Terrance Steele. But when Terrance Steele is right and when he's ready to go, the lineup that I mentioned just a second ago, that to me is your best 5. Terrance Steele should not be your swing tackle at this point. If you are talking about, we talked about the physicality of this football team, right? Terrance Steele is your best run blocker on the right side. Get him out there and play the kind of physical football that you want to play, given what Mike McCarthy and his offense is attempting to do running the football. But to OC's point, you're right. At this point, based on what they have right now, questions with, Farniok, getting him reps. What do you do with, Richards? What do you do with, with Ball? Trying to figure out some of that depth behind those guys. I think that's what your starting lineup will be when we start the regular season. But once Steele's ready to go, yeah, man, he needs to be out there as your starting right tackle. You need to move forward from there.
So where I push back on that just a little bit with you and OC is because what people have to remember is if Matt Waletzko doesn't get hurt, there's a slim chance we even see Tyler Smith last year at left tackle. So the Cowboys are going to have a plan for Matt Waletzko somewhere in that mix. And so will it be left tackle or right tackle? I feel like he might be better suited at right tackle first to start off the season. But I think that Matt Waletzko is going to be a tackle in that rotation until Terrence comes back, because the Cowboys are very high on him. And Mike McCarthy has been speaking extremely high on him, saying that he had a credible mini camp and everything. So I feel like the Cowboys do have a plan. I just don't see a situation, me personally, where he's not going to be out there on the field. Now, I do understand that a lot of people are excited about what they saw from Tyler Smith at left tackle. Tyler Smith will be our future left tackle, but I just feel like as things are right now, it's just going to be, he's going to be more flexible. And Tyler has mentioned himself, he likes that flexibility of playing left guard, playing left tackle. He can kind of play over the field when it comes to cross training across the offensive line. But also when it comes to Tyron and Tyler, me as a Cowboys fan, I feel like we deserve to see what that left side looks like of having Tyron and Tyler on that left side, because we never got to really experience that last year. And I feel like that can be a strong starting point if we're able to come into the season healthy with those two at the left tackle and left guard. You have Zach Martin, we know who he is. If we have to kind of pitch and go with the Matt Waletzko or whoever at right tackle, that's perfectly fine. But I feel like left tackle Tyler and Tyron gives us the best opportunity. So that'll be what screen one who you just had up there, boss.
Yeah, screen one.
Well, let me jump in real quick. Sorry, gotta circle the block one more time.
I want to see the fight. I want to see the fight between Kevin and Jake.
No. Listen, I'm gonna keep it.
Dog, what are you doing?
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, man. I disagree, because I don't think that's best for the Cowboys, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you look at, and this is all due respect to the first ballot Gold Jacket Hall of Fame player that Tyron Smith has been for the Dallas Cowboys organization. No disrespect to him, okay? But
here we
listen.
go.
Wait.
Father Time.
Somebody
listen,
go fight.
Listen, Law. Father Time is undefeated, Law. And you're going to have to agree with that. And the first thing that goes with people is their legs, okay? That's the first thing that goes. And what you see with Tyron, if you look at even when he played late last year, even when he played this year at right tackle, we did a good job. But I'm saying the power in those legs, man, like, man, the strength is not what it used to be in terms of the explosiveness. That's why you go younger and you don't stop the maturation and the development. Now, listen, he can play it. He'll be fantastic. But I'm thinking about, again, Terrance Steel, because you don't know what Terrance Steel is going to look like. He got to come back and prove that he's good to go. Also, Matt Walinsko, he could be a viable option. He could come out. He could have a great year. But we don't know that yet. This is uncertain. We're not going to know this until we get into a couple of preseason games of this upcoming training camp. So right now, I don't know that Tyron Smith is really the best because of the fact of his physicality. He's more of a position blocker at this point, and the power and explosiveness that he had is diminishing. No offense, but that's just the truth.
Well, when you say all of that, and I get all of that, what you said, and remember, we circle back to this. In the last 2 seasons with Tyron Smith, you can only point out that Raiders game of him having a horrible game. So even at his worst, he is still the best out there on the field. So I digress. Just off of that, come on, fam.
Is he better than Tyler Smith run blocking at this point in his career?
Where's your film analysis of him
is he
having
better?
A horrible game when he's out there? You know, and even when he's out there, he is one of your best front five. Your best five. You play your five until he get hurt. So the option is the only reservation you have with Tyron is when he do get hurt, who do you place? But for all I can say is when he's healthy, and I know it's slim, you got to figure out a way to still keep him out there on the field. I'm still waiting on your film analysis. Come on.
And I'll give you film analysis, Law, but I'm going to tell you now, you play him at right tackle is where you play him because Matt Farniok was more than serviceable. He did a very good job out there at left guard. I think that he's really the best fit right now because you don't have a healthy Terrance Steel, and you leave the tackle that only gave up 6 sacks as a rookie, which is less than Tyron Smith gave up his rookie year, and he's played tremendously pounding guys and being physical at the point of attack. What is Brian Schottenheimer going to want to do? You said it out of your own mouth, Law. You didn't say that he likes to run the ball. You said that Brian Schottenheimer loves to run the ball, and how he likes to run it is G-traps and dives and running zone action toward the strong side, which means that you got to generate push and you can't just position block. That's what I'm talking about. So if you talk about that, you got to think about younger, and that's all I'm saying. Not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you got to think about it.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying also is that
the OC just want to fight people today. That's all he want to do is fight. He just came to fight today.
This is the show that I came for. This is what I came for right here.
But I just want to say this.
We got company, man.
Hold up, though.
He had to flip the camera. He had to flip the camera for that
one. I'm on OC took my point. First of all, OC took my point. So I'm with OC.
What's your point?
What's your point? Echo your point.
Hold up. Remember, I've been telling y'all Tyler Smith need to stay out there on that left tackle, dog. And for that main point about, you see, when we were getting outside on them damn toss sweeps and them zone traps, who was out there mangling people? It was Tyler Smith. And here's the thing. If you already played Tyron Smith on that right side and OC already done said it and OC already knows because you played the right side and the left side, didn't you, OC? Isn't it easier to play? Isn't it easier on your body to play the right side than the left side?
It's easier in pass pro, and it's easier in the sense because you have a lot of combo blocks because a lot of times you're on the strong side of the formation and it's a tight end next to you. So you got a lot of trade blocks in most situations on run. So you're not ISO'd as much.
So my
ISO is more on the left side, historically speaking. Now, if you're running two tights, it really doesn't matter. It depends on formation. But if you're running traditional style offenses, and the West Coast in particular, hey, they run out of two tights, they run out of one tight. It really depends on how Mike McCarthy lays out the West Coast, because you can manipulate the West Coast and you can do different formations, and it's still a West Coast concept. So that part we don't know yet. But traditionally, the strong side is the right side, and you got double team and combo blocks there more often.
See, Kevin, what you did is when you see talking about these best
five.
five.
Listen,
this is what you did, Kevin. This is your fault. You the one that started this. They're not gonna let you back in now. They said, listen, they done took over for me. They don't care. They don't care. Go ahead.
You wasn't trying to do no work anyway. It sounded like you was trying to hang out anyway.
True. Go ahead, B. Go ahead, B.
I'm saying, you said the right side, right? The right side. Why would you have Tyron Smith on that right side? And he did an adequate job last year, and he's already played the right tackle before in his career. We saw he played his rookie year, and I'm sure he played it before in college as well. I'm sure he can go back to that right side. Why not you have him right there, continue to let Matt Waletzko develop, okay? And then you got Tyler Smith right there, and just like you said, firing out, I think that I'm going to get his name right one day. But I want to see him at that left side, and let's see what that happens. Because when Terrance Steel comes back,
Objection!
Yeah, man.
Objection!
Yeah, man.
Objection!
Objection!
Let's call the witness up to the stands.
I'm taking back over after this. I'm taking back over.
To the stands. I gotta call Kelvin
hold up
to the stands. And he's going to give you the
you ain't got
reason
nobody
why.
on that right side yet. You don't have nobody on that right side. Period.
Let me call my witness up to the stand.
They've already talked about they might start Terrance Steel on that PUP 4 games. You don't have nobody on that right side right now, period.
You can go with Matt Waletzko, bro. He's going to
out here. You saying Matt Waletzko, we ain't seen him. Here's the thing.
Let me call Kevin Gray up to the stands right quick.
Yeah, we got to get Kevin Gray back up in the league. We do have some guests. You know,
let me call my witness up to the stands. Kevin Gray, can you expound on the reason why you said that about Matthew Waletzko at right tackle? Can you give me some analysis on your expert opinion of Matthew Waletzko? Let's go playing at right tackle. What have you seen out there? Talk to us, man.
Okay, so it's really not so much more about Waletzko. It's this, and this is kind of more so. And OC did a great job, obviously breaking down the X's and O's when it comes to why you would, feel good about Farniok playing on that left side. Waletzko on the plan that you have for him that Tuck was talking about. But here's the question I have for you for the panel is: are you really going to tell Tyron Smith, when this full five is healthy, whether it's, both Smith boys on the left side, Biotish, Martin, and Steele, are you really going to tell Tyron Smith at this stage in his career, when you told me as a franchise that you wanted him back here and you wanted him to be a part of this offensive line, are you really going to tell Tyron at this point in his career, hey, Tyron, we want you to be our swing tackle going forward for the rest of your career here? Because if you're telling me that part of your five is Tyler Smith out on the left side, Farniok or whomever you want at left guard, Biotish, Martin, and then Steele as your best run blocker on the outside, what are you doing with Tyron Smith at that point? I don't think from a front office standpoint or from a player standpoint, no matter how you feel about Tyron, you're not telling him at this point in his career, hey, Tyron, you're our swing tackle going forward from here. Either if you feel like he's...
That's the problem. And that's the problem. And that's the problem.
They're not going to.
No, and that's the problem with the Cowboys, Kevin, respectfully, is that you have players, no offense to the Hall of Fame first ballot gold jacket former tight end. You know who he is. Witten. All right. Witten plays 3 or 4 more years longer than what he should play and had that starting tight end position. No offense to Witten, but Witten couldn't move, man. And it was a loyalty to players to a fault, right? And listen, Tyron Smith signed up for doing whatever was best for the team last year when he came back and he saw how well Tyler Smith was playing at left tackle. He said, you know what? I don't got to be the left tackle. You can move me wherever you need me. Move me to right tackle. So he conceded and he said that was okay even last year. So he can't double the block and say, hey, you know what? Give me my left tackle starting position back right now because I want it, right? I'm saying this simply put. He has an incentive latent contract, okay, which is based upon playing time. It's not a big hit to the Cowboys either way. But if he doesn't play that much, God bless him. He'll still make his money. He's a Cowboy legend. I think this is a wait and see situation, and I just think that we got to really be careful before we anoint certain people in certain positions, and we change where we don't need to change. And I think that's my only point. We just don't need to change things that we don't need to change.
But you just said that you liked him at right tackle, OC.
Yes, I do.
So
as long as Terrance Steel is not healthy.
But it's not a thing about talent when it comes to Tyron. That's what Law was trying to say. When he is healthy, he is one of our best offensive linemen. Period.
He is.
I'm saying. So it's like, he's going to be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to be out there on the field. So it's not like a Jason Witten situation where it's like, okay, he just ain't got it no more. Tyron Smith still has it.
Young Bulls are better.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So here's the question we have to ask ourselves. Is the talent gap wider between Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith at left tackle, or Tyler Smith at left guard and Matt Farniok or Austin Richards or whoever y'all want to
That's the question.
There's a bigger gap at the
Good point.
That's
Why
the
not?
question right there.
Go ahead, get your left tackle, solidify the guard spot, and then you can have Matt Waletzko, who's an athletic guy who has size, has length, has showed a lot of upside coming out of North Dakota, that he can do a lot of different things, you know, if healthy. And so it's like, I'd rather go that route versus if you have Matt Farniok at left guard, and then you have Tyron goes down. Now you got Matt Waletzko at right tackle. Like, it's just too much, right? Go with your best five. And I think that's the conversation we're talking about when it came to Kevin. It's like, who was your best five? And Tyron has to be in that best five.
He has to.
Yeah, he has to.
Because if you were ready to move on from, if you were ready to make Tyler Smith your left tackle of the future now and moving forward, you should have moved on from Tyron Smith.
Right.
And once they decided not to do that, then you're telling me that Tyron's part of your best five, which means he needs to be on the field in some kind of capacity. And if I'm Mike Solari, who, by the way, so wild that man worked for Tom Landry and now is back in this organization working for Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys. That's another conversation for another day. But if you're telling me that he's part of your best five, I personally want him playing what is his best position for the majority of his career, which is at left tackle, even with the concerns of his injury. And when that does happen, we talked about the position flexibility of Tyler Smith. I feel good about him moving over to left tackle. But yeah, based on what you have right now, you go with what you have in terms of, you know, having Tyler at left tackle, Farniok at left guard, Biotish, Martin, and then Tyron at right tackle until Steele is healthy. And then you realign them based on their best positions. And then you move forward. And then once you get it set, leave it. Because I don't want all this offensive line shuffling. Once you have it,
the substitution packages.
And let me say this too. It's two guys that's the unknown right now. And I lean on the front office in this capacity of finding guys like Will McClay can find guys. Chuma Edoga and Austin Richards. You know, we banging on the table right now for an undrafted guy to play, right? And his name is Terrance Steel, to stay at right tackle to get paid. So Austin Richard could be that guy that all of a sudden we be like, man, dog, look at this dude. And then Chuma Edoga, who was a third-round draft pick from the New York Jets a couple of years back. I seen him put the clamps on my guy D-Law in 2019. So maybe they can find that good grace from him. And I'm not throwing any shade at D-Law, by the way. Shout out to
my dog. Man. Law versus Law. But also TJ Bass, man. You locked up them Georgia boys, too. So,
I want to say real quick to Law's point, because I think that's a dirty little secret that we're not talking about as much, that we may have to as the season goes on, is we talked about all the guys that got to get paid between CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, Dak, could be up for an extension here at any point. If you are trying to make Terrance Steel your quote-unquote swing tackle, knowing that he's one of your best five, why aren't you trying to pay him? Because if this is a guy that you envision being part of your future, then he needs to be on the field to have the kind of consistency to be able to grow with this offensive line based on what you're trying to do. That would be another guy. Let's say Terrance Steel is able to come back, after missing, let's say he starts on the season, as OC mentioned, on the PUP list, missing the first 4 games, but then he comes back, balls out for 13 games, plays like he's one of the best, right tackles in all of football. Guess who's going to be up for, a new contract this upcoming offseason? Yeah, Terrance Steele's going to be ready to get paid as well. So that's just another guy that you're going to have to get paid, that has to get paid for the Cowboys. So I think that's another underlying aspect of all this, is that If Terrance Steel comes back and plays well and is good enough, yeah, you're going to have to pay him as well, given all the other big ticket items that you have already as well.
Which could be another reason why they want to test Matt Waletzko at right tackle, just to see. We know it's Stephen Jones. They just want to see.
And it makes sense. It really does. You got to work that out. He should get a lot of reps.
Business decision in case you don't want to play Terrance Steel, about $19 million a year. Is basically what you're talking about.
You really have to do that too. You have to.
That's what the top 5 tackles are going for. They're going for around $20 million a year right now. And we talked about this with Michael Gelkin on a few days back. That, hey, the longer you go and you don't pay Terrance Steel, if he comes back, and I would say if he plays half the season and he looks like 85% of himself, man, his number is going to go through the roof. And I don't think his agent is going to be like, hey, do a hometown discount. That dude's going to want to command top 3 right tackle money in the league, which is going to be quite a bit.
Yeah. And where do y'all think he ranks on that priority list? Because, Kevin mentioned, you got Micah, you got CD, you got Dak, you got possibly, you know what I'm saying, Diggs.
Yeah, and we go talk about that because we go talk about them contracts.
Look, we started cooking.
No, because it's a couple of topics I want to get to that we tease, but I'm going to circle back to it.
Okay.
First, we can actually go where you was going, Tuck. Let's go where you was going with that. Let me pull that up. Give me a second. So, because I'm going off of what Kevin also had in his tweet, so that's perfect timing that you brought this up. So, Kevin, you tweeted this out June 17th, yesterday, right? Where the agents take on how Cowboys can make re-signing that Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and then Diggs. This article didn't even really mention Steele, by the way, which is what you was getting into, Tuck. So since I was going to talk about that anyway, go ahead, Tuck, what you was saying on that.
Yeah, I was just saying, where do y'all think he ranks as far as the Cowboys' priority of getting the contract done with Steele? Because, like I said, there's a lot of young offensive linemen kind of waiting in the pop line, and they kind of developed Steele. As Jay-Z said, they made a whole go ahead and make another one. Maybe Stephen Jones might sit back and say, okay, maybe we're going to trim the, maybe we trim the fat a little bit when it comes to the cap at Terrance Steel, plugging a Matt Waletzko, or maybe they give one of these other guys the opportunity at right tackle, but then try to sign Dak, CD, Diggs. Do y'all think that he's going to be one of the top considerations? I personally don't. I don't.
I think he should.
Yeah, I mean he should, but do I? Yeah, I'm just putting my Stephen Jones hat on.
I'm gonna tell you why I think you will. I'm gonna just throw it out here. It seems to me that when players are coming from misfortune, they run to the table first.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So like that happened with linebacker Jalen Smith. It also happened with Lyle Collins, right? Right, Lyle Collins.
Steven said we open for business.
Right.
Business.
And the way Steven does it is he sends an open invitation, and then, in my opinion, he'll market it like, well, it's only so much money, so come and get it. So people that's coming off injuries, they run to the table first. Michael Gallup ran to the table first.
And let me echo this too, boss. Barry Church did that, right?
Yep, ran to the table.
Barry Church when he was hurt, and they paid Tyron Crawford when he got all jacked up. So, hey, we see a pattern here, and this is what we bring out over here in these circles around here of pulling out that this is how the Jones family likes to operate. Yeah. So,
I see Steele being
they would
first.
like to lowball them too a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's going to be where the wee-woo come in at.
In my opinion, it could even be Steele, but I think they shot themselves in the foot with Pollard because that tag, when you look at the market value of these running backs, now the tag is like a deal. So it slowed him from coming to the table. But he likely would have also been one of the first to come to the table. After that, and Kevin, I heard you talk about this. My concern is Diggs. That's my concern. He should be next, and to me, it could get ugly before it get better. I want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, Diggs is interesting because we all know he was a second-round pick, so he has a 4-year. His rookie deal was a 4-year deal, so this is it for him, this upcoming season. So here's the risk that you run. Let's say Trayvon finishes top 5 interception-wise in terms of his number of interceptions this year. Has, an all-pro year, makes another Pro Bowl, that type of thing. you're running the risk if you don't get a deal done with him, during this offseason or before the season or during the season. My man is hitting unrestricted free agency, and he's going to be looking around at a top 5 salary. So are you willing to tag him at a top 5 corner salary, which I'm going to take an educated guess that's going to be around $18 to $19 million per season, or on a tag for your top flight corners. You're talking about the Ramseys of the world, your Byron Jones. We're talking about numbers wise. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, numbers wise are. So to me, the priority is to get Trayvon done now, because you can wait with CD. You've already exercised his 5th year option. You're good there, so you can wait on that. Micah, blank check. That's good for, at the end of this upcoming year. Trayvon's the one you got to take care of now, because I tend to think, this is my own personal opinion, I tend to think that he's not going to be willing to play ball with you, because he has come in. I mean, literally, since he came to the league in 2020, no player has had more interceptions and more pass breakups than 7. So he's going to look around and say, am I one of the top corners in the league? And the numbers will tell you, yes. Well, yeah. So even for all the double moves that he bites on from time to time, and all the times he may get caught peeking in the backfield from time to time, those comes with these kinds of corners who are as aggressive as they are with Trayvon, but he's still one of the 5 best corners in the league. Pay him, and as I've said before, pay him and quit playing with me. Get it done, and move on. President. I'm just saying, this is the kind of stuff that's just not hard to me. Yeah, he's one of the best corners in the league. Pay him a top 5 market salary, and move on. That's all it is for me. That's all it is.
And especially like Kevin said, with the defense now becoming the identity of the Dallas Cowboys, this organization, he's an important piece. You know what I'm saying? Get this 7-11. That's what you're marketing. Everything is there.
That's a great point.
So you got to get this deal done. And I just feel like with him having a brother, we see kind of what Stefan's doing right now in Buffalo. It's not going to be a pretty situation if they play with this boy. So it's just like, you know what? I'm with Kevin. Get this deal done. But
I put it like this.
It's going to get ugly, y'all. You're saying embrace y'all.
I see it getting ugly. If he not paid before training camp, he would not be on that plane.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing with that is, so for these guys, and so you guys, I'm sure have talked about this, previously, is the idea that they can't necessarily hold out. It's not,
CBA.
This is the CBA is not going to let you, hold out. Like you can hold in, that kind of thing, but that's going to be really, prohibited to you in terms of your pocket. So if they don't, my prediction is if they don't get something done before training camp starts, Trayvon's going to shut it down. Say, look, I'm not talking. For the rest of the year, I'm not talking contract. We'll revisit this. That, to me, that's just my own personal opinion.
Me too.
The way that it feels like he kind of gets down with his business. Like, look, if we get this done now, great. If we don't, we're not talking through the season, and we'll wait till the end of the year, and we'll revisit at that point.
And that type of burden and stress on a player, only Dak Prescott can just shake it off and go through that. Not everybody can do what Dak did in that situation. And believe it or not, like Ripley's, he's the key to this as well. You extend him, you got a boatload of money. You can start doing the order of proper operations, go on ahead and paying Terrance Steel, go on ahead and knocking out Trayvon Diggs' contract, and then bring the contract to the table with Micah Parsons and getting it all done. How about the Cowboys, instead of betting against the player, bet with the players, with these guys? And I think that will help out and alleviate it. But the Jones family, to me, and I could be wrong, and Jerry Jones could be saying,
"Get your damn act together."
But I'm just going to say this, though, Jerry. Hear me out. Hear me out, Jerry. Just bet with these guys, because you will have a better aura with this team. And then maybe, just maybe, some good fortunes can fall to us by just being able to have the most amount of money. That's all my thoughts on that.
And that's a good point, Law, because once again, remember that Lion's going to be watching, so if they do Trayvon dirty, Micah's going to be like, all right, they're not about to do me this way. And it's going to get ugly. Man. I just feel like just like Law said, be proactive versus reactive. We've been in so many situations where we just waited last minute, the deal gets ugly, and it makes a bad situation. We want our players in the best mindset, because we all Cowboys fans on this panel. We want our players in the best mindset, and going to this contract situation where it's going to get ugly. Did this team believe in me and whatnot? You ask questions after every game about the contract. It just puts you in a bad spot mentally. So Hopefully the Cowboys get the deal done with Diggs, but if I had to put money on it, absolutely not. We're going to be out there in Oxnard doing the whole damn round table about Diggs. You know what I'm saying? Diggs walking through, you know what I'm saying? He feels like he has a hamstring injury, not practicing today.
It's gonna be some type of holdout from Diggs, something. He gonna have to, and I would side with him. Yeah. I would side with him on that too. One thing too, we talking about who we think is, now who should. If we talking about who should, to me, that's Dak.
Dak. Oh yeah.
That's Dak. Yeah, because like I always said this, the Cowboys like to pay their light bill before they pay their mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And when things get tight, now all of a sudden you ain't got the money for the mortgage.
Refinance.
Please pay your mortgage first. Please pay your mortgage first.
But you got to pass due.
Pay your mortgage first. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I mean, to your point, this is just from a simple, cap situation. His cap number is going to continue to escalate. So the quicker you can get a deal done with him to restructure his deal or get him a contract extension that lowers his cap number, now the more breathing room that you have because of where you are in your future, situations with some of the guys you got to get done. So, yeah, who should get done relative, and it should be fairly easy too, because you can start to look at the market where Dak is relative to his peers, and you should be able to work that out fairly comfortably, with Dak. So yeah, you got to get that done just because you got to account for what you got, in terms of several guys coming up. And to Tug's point, real quick, because you were talking about, the contingencies that could happen with, Diggs in terms of contract negotiations. You bring up one of my favorite things that I cannot wait for. If nothing else, if the Cowboys don't win the Super Bowl, the other thing that I'm going to be waiting for is when David Mulligetta knocks on Steven and Jerry's door and says, hey, it's time to talk about Micah. Because if we know one thing about David Mulligetta, he's not taking no hometown discounts, and my man's going to come for blood. He done came for Jalen Ramsey. He done got it done with Derwin James. He done Kyle Pitts. Whomever he represents, my man's coming for blood. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that negotiation. It shouldn't be one, but at the same time, Mulligetta not playing with none of y'all when it comes to his client.
Here comes the fan base. Micah's being selfish. Micah needs to. Like they don't spin it, and that's how they do. Every contract situation, more than likely with the Cowboys, has to get ugly. They try to spin it. They'll mud on the player's name first, muddy him down with this fan base. Some of the fans buy into it. It's just like Law said, just invest and be on the same side with the player. Trayvon Diggs came out of nowhere as a second-round pick, and he's excelled. He's broke records. He's done everything you asked him to do. He's earned his money. Just give it to the man. But that ain't how Stephen Jones works and how the Cowboys work. So buckle up, Cowboys.
Real quick.
It's no muffler on his mouth, too.
Can y'all do one more before we get up out of here? Can we do one more? Just one more, or do we need to give our final words?
I can do one more.
Kevin, you good?
Yeah, I can do one. Yeah.
One more. All right.
One more.
I want to get into this analytics real quick, because you just had on the get right. You just had Calvin Watkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he brought up, because you asked him what are some of the issues that you could see with the Cowboys, and he laid out about 10 things. He
really did.
Oh,
he did.
I can play it too. I got it right here. I ain't gonna play it, but he went off. But one of the things he talked about was Mike McCarthy getting ran away from play calling and picking it back up. A lot of times, one of the rumors that was out there was his situation of play calling, as well as making the right decisions at the right time. And you tweeted about Bobby Belt with the hiring of another analytical aide. And that's the same thing Aisha brought up. She brought up the analytical aides, right, that you're starting to see the Cowboys bring in. How do you foresee, and I'm gonna throw this out here to the panel, how do we see these analytical aides helping out Mike McCarthy in situational football and helping them be better as a play call? I'm gonna start with you, Kevin.
Well, to be quite honest, it shouldn't hurt. I mean, the more information that you have, the better decisions theoretically you should be able to make. Now, whether or not you make that decision based off of your situation at the time, that's another thing, in its entirety. But, you look at a team, for example, like the Ravens, we laud them for their, willingness to utilize analytics, maybe a little too much at times. But at the same time, their willingness to use it to be able to make decisions that will put their teams in the best position to succeed. I don't know too much about, the young lady that they hired here in terms of their newest hire, but at the same time, my initial thought is more information can't hurt. Now, the application of that information is all that matters here based off of what you're attempting to do. And are these individuals coming in to provide the kind of analytical work that informs the decision-making that you're trying to have? But also, how does that information get communicated to not only your coaching staff, but players to ensure that they are all on the same page? Because at the end of the day, it's all about everyone being on the same page to understand what decisions are going to be made, why those decisions are made, and if they can execute them to give them the chance to succeed. That would be my only thoughts on that. Is as long as that's happening, have at it.
Yeah, because the OC, you talked about that play calling being the field, and they now have hired 2 analytical people. What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are similar. I think that there is a feel, there's an ebb and flow in the game in terms of play calling, and I think that you have to be in tune with 3 things. A, what's going on with the other team? B, what's going on with your team? And then 3, what you need to do at this point in the game. And so, based upon those 3 factors, I think you use analytics to mix in and try to be successful. And I've always said that analysts, statistics, and data for a head coach in particular with McCarthy, it should help lessen his work. It should help him be able to easily, by using these 2 people that he just hired, understand the patterns, understands the different formations that he's going to see offensively and or defensively, so that it can help the game planning go more fluid. And so that's where I think the analytics really helps you. But when you're in the flow of a game, it is a feel. But then the last thing about the analytics, because numbers don't lie, it can validate or invalidate what you like to do. If you like to run zone and first down, it can invalidate that it's effective only 20% of the time. If you like to run toss sweep on first down, it could validate that, well, we get positive yards of 4 yards or plus 85% of the time when you run this play. So things like that help with the prep and helps with some nuances.
Check this out real quick, and I'm going to push this to you, Law, Kevin Gray, and Tuck. But this is a big part that a lot of people not flagging to me, Kevin, what you forwarded from Bobby. I'm going to highlight this because I don't think a lot of people seeing this part. Is she that he said fascinating high, Bobby Bell?
I don't know how to say that, man.
Look, I like how everybody was like, nope, we're not.
That word put me in the chokehold, man.
It's called Sarah, man. It's called Sarah. Keep it
Sarah. Okay, I can smile for me, Sarah. That's all I know. Sarah smile. That's what I'm gonna call it. Sarah smile.
Don't do it. All right.
Sarah smile.
Sarah told Kevin Clark at a panel discussion in 2022 that her biggest evolution, I wish Big was here. I wish he was here. Evolution since entering the league is that she now believes individual running backs matter a great deal. Not a little deal, a great deal more than what she once did. Kevin?
Oh boy, that's interesting because I mean, you look at the last, let's go 4 or 5 years, the devaluing of the running back position in the NFL.
Right.
It's just amazing how the evolution of the back has gone. At one point, the single tailback, then you had the combo, the two back systems where you got to have 2 guys to be able to run it, and then you got an anomaly like Derrick Henry who's just like, no, just bump all that. I'm just gonna carry the rock for everybody and then some.
Right.
But I think what it speaks to for me is kind of something that Mike McCarthy's been talking about, which is the physicality and the running game and wanting to do some more of that. And clearly this is a person, based on what he's attempting to do, sounds like falls in line with what he's trying to do from a running back standpoint, which to me now brings the question in, okay, you know, love and respect Skip Pete, but we can't remember what Skip Pete said one time about Tony Pollard and his ability to carry, you know, the load, this, that, and the third. I can't remember the exact quote, but I think you know what I'm referring to. You know, is Tony Pollard able to withstand the kind of toll that is going to be required of him at the running back spot? And I tend to think, at least for me, and I got in some hot water with this, and y'all may laugh at it, but I felt at the time, I told John Michelle, I said, look, for my money, Tony Pollard is near the level, for me, of a Christian McCaffrey when he's utilized the right way. And the example that I always use was the Minnesota game a year ago. My man was in pass catching situations, caught a beautiful little wheel route for, you know, gorgeous touchdown, that kind of thing. When Tony Pollard's utilized that way, he can be a multi-dimensional back that can do a lot of different things for you. Now the question is, can he tote the rock the 20, 25 times that may be required of him? And what does that do for Malik Davis? What does that do for Ronald Jones? What does that do for the depth of this running back room, knowing the kind of toll that Tony Pollard is going to take? But if he's going to be that individual back that she's referring to here, that means Tony Pollard is going to have a lot of work to do this upcoming year. And this is coming off a significant injury in the playoff game. So, yeah, this is TP's job, and what that means for him and how Mike McCarthy wants to utilize him, I think speaks to some of what she's talking about here. And that individual, that singular back being the focal point of this offense and that running back room there.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Kevin, because I have a tweet right here. I'm not sure if y'all can see that, but it says, what does Christian McCaffrey do better than Tony Pollard? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been asking that question for years, but here's the thing. We just broke down the film session on Tony Pollard, and he's very dynamic and do a lot of things. But when it comes to Tony Pollard, he has never been just the guy. I mean, even going way back to high school. So that's the one thing. It's like, that's just the question mark. But if you look at the talent perspective, it's all there. He can run with power. He can run between the tackles, outside the tackle, screen game. He can catch. He can do, you know, so many different things. So I'm expecting a big year from Tony Pollard, to be honest with you. But it's just that question, can he carry the load of 20 carries, 23 carries? But if not, who is going to be the other guy? We've looked at Malik Davis. There's a question mark, though. I believe in Malik. He was a practice squad player, got cut, got waived. So how do the Cowboys really feel about him internally? Rojo Jones, a guy we saw some spark in Tampa, didn't get much opportunity last year in Kansas City. So it's like, it's just those question marks. Deuce Vaughn, Hunter Luepke, the list goes on and on and on. And I see what you posted right there. I see
what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
Subliminal. You know, he's pushing it.
I mean,
how much?
Yeah,
how much
it makes sense. It's hard. It's hard because I know financially. Here's the thing, right? So we're already paying Zeke $5 million already, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make it work? Do you give him a 2? Do you make it incentivized? How do you make it work where it's not disrespectful to Zeke? I don't know, man. But this team is built perfectly for Ezekiel Elliott. Like,
it is. I've been waiting on you to say it. You took all day to say it, Chuck.
Well, here's the reason, right? We had this conversation during the draft, right? And I was against it. Me and Big Game was against having Zeke back. But the reason why I was against it during the draft when we're doing the Final Word draft show. But the reason why is there were a lot of balanced running backs in the draft. We didn't get one. You know what I'm saying? So that was like, all right. Now,
all right.
Yeah, it was saying we
didn't get what?
We didn't go get
Look, OC been waiting on that right there. That's OC been waiting on that right there.
Now it spun me right back to being like, well, damn, Zeke would be a perfect fit. So, you know, that's where I'm at. Someone's asking me that. I was like, bro, like, there was a Tajay Pierce, there was, you know, Zach Charbonnet, you know, there was Keandre, like there were some other guys that who were kind of those big bruiser, heavy volume backs. We didn't get none.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Even though I do like Deuce Vaughn. So it's a perfect setup for a Zeke return. Do I think it's going to happen? No, man, but it will just be a perfect fit for what Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer are trying to do. Because I know that she said with her analytics, she likes to focus on the individual running back aspect. But Brian Schottenheimer, he's always just a staple of backs, full backs and all. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fully emerges when it comes to the analytics versus philosophy. Man, if I can
that's why I want to bring it up.
Well,
I
just
just
wanted to-
analytics versus the philosophy. Go ahead, Law. Then we got OC.
I just wanted to say this. There's a movie that came out many years ago. Will Smith played in the movie. It was iRobot, right? In the beginning of the movie, the robot used analytics to save the girl. And what he was saying that he saved him instead of saving the girl. And he was always saying to the robot, save the girl, not me. And it was like sometimes analytics can get right in the way. And granted, Sarah, she graduated from Carnegie. I see it in her resume, and she's not hard on her eyes, by the way. I think that she's going to bring a lot to the table from that aspect of analytics and AI and all of that good stuff. But at the same time, we have to understand that it will still be the coach's decision on how they operate and proceed to this football game plan. Now, to piggyback off of what you said with Tony Pollard, I don't look at Tony Pollard as a necessary 23 to 25 touches guy with the ball in his hand as it relates to running back. But I do look at him as an explosive guy of anything, because you did say a great thing about Christian McCaffrey. But what if we look at it from a different point of view? What if we look at it like, what if Tony Pollard could be the discounted from the pay grade version of what Debo can do? Because I can literally see Tony Pollard being that wide receiver / running back in the backfield and give you those things juxtaposed to just being a running back. And then you slide in the Rojos of the world, as well as Deuce Vaughn and Malik Davis. And the only reason why the Cowboys are not willing to pull the trigger on Ezekiel Elliott of bringing him back, because there is a thing called, hey man, ego. Zeke used to being the big dog in the house, roof, and now he's getting the crumbs. It's going to be hard. And I'm not saying that Zeke is not that dude to be humble, but Tony is even talking about taking less money. From what I heard, allegedly, so I think that the Jones family is rubbing their Birdman hands like this when they seen that, and they said, you know what, we're gonna figure out a way to make this work. And if it don't work, Zeke, stay by the phone. We may give you a call. That's my thoughts on this. So they're gonna have to see if Rojo can tote it. Remember, Rojo got a signing bonus of $152,000, man. And his contract for the entire year is only $1 million. I mean, I think all of us can put our money together to pay his contract a little bit. So I'm quite sure that they banking and they rolling on Rojo.
Maybe y'all can with that YouTube money. I don't know if I can do that. Y'all think y'all got it.
Yeah, I do got it,
man. You cut me out. Y'all got it.
But shout out to Rojo, man.
Well, as you said, Lo, they brought him in for a little bit more than a cup of coffee, and that's what they did. So, look, Rojo is going to have to be productive, because that's really the linchpin of this run game, in my opinion. Rojo is going to have to be productive in between the tackles, because Tony Pollard, as great as he is, I understand. I feel the same way. But I'm saying, based on how it is, Rojo is going to have to be that dog. He's going to have to be that horse, because if he's not, you're going to end up getting Tony Pollard hurt, trying to make him run dives in between the tackles. He is not built to run the ball 20 to 25 times. He's a 12 to 16 touch guy. Get him in space. Space being the key word. If you get this man in space, he will make great things happen for you. Deuce Vaughn is a slower, poor man's version of Tony Pollard at his best. He doesn't have the long speed, but he got quicks, right? He's shifty, he's elusive, but he doesn't have the long speed of a Tony Pollard. So what else do you have? Look, to me, hey, if you can get Zeke back some type of way, you're not going to pay any big money for Cook or nothing like that. Look, get Zeke back in the building, man. Just figure out a way, make it happen, do something, give him something. Bring him back, because we need a hammer. We need a hammer in the building, and right now we don't have a hammer.
Man, come on, man.
Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen.
I have to brag on the OC. I have to brag on the OC. Go ahead. Before I brag on OC, go ahead, Tuck. Go ahead.
But it's funny how, when it came to Tyler Smith, OC was all about, Tyron stopping his throw. But then when it comes to Zeke, he threw that whole ideology out the window. You know what I'm saying? But hey, we know Jerry Jones is not going to allow 21 Savage, Ezekiel Elliott to get no crumbs. So
not 21 Savage though.
I mean,
listen, but you listen, Tough. But you made a wrong left turn, Tough. You made a wrong left turn, and this is your wrong left turn that I'm about to expose, Tough. Because in the last 5 to 6 years, hasn't Tyron Smith missed at least 5 games in each of those years?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Hold on, Tough. We got to compare apples to apples, Tough. Because if you hold on, Tough. Because we got to compare apples with apples, Tough. We got to compare because Ezekiel. How many games have Ezekiel Elliott missed?
That's what I'm saying. So Zeke's going to be there. He's going to be available, and we know that he's not going to get no crumbs. Like Jerry Jones would not.
But we know the running back market is softening.
He's going to be in the way more consistently than Tyron's going to be in Tyler's.
He's not going to be in the way. He's not going to be in the way because the running back market is softened. And listen, the longer you stay out there, the lower your salary gets. True. That's the nature of the beast when you get into negotiation. So if that man doesn't have a job at the beginning of the regular season, his negotiation leverage is all but gone, and he has to make a decision. And this is where it gets interesting. Zeke is going to have to make a decision if he's not signed by the beginning of the regular season if he wants to play this year or not. He's going to have to make that decision because at some point you're going to have to be playing or you're going to have to not be playing. And the big difference between him and Tyron Smith is that he has been a tank for the Cowboys, I believe, missing only 1 or 2 games in his 7-year career. Although he has deteriorated in terms of speed, he is one of the best inside runners and finishers in the league still when you give him the ball in short yardage situations. And so that's why I said we need to handle it. That was it.
I'm saying, but what do you think the split dynamic from the carries is going to be? If it's something like last year,
trust
then
me,
are you getting the full?
Trust me on this. Trust me on this. I wouldn't cut y'all off if I didn't. I'm going to tell y'all this. I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow. I don't mean to cut the show, but we got to get to the final words. Trust me.
Gonna roll them final words.
I heard everybody concerned, and I'm
on tomorrow, man.
Hey, you gonna like this breakdown I got coming on Zeke. I'm calling it. Don't be afraid of the boogeyman. All right, you gonna like it. Trust me.
I'm gonna
really break it down. All
right, I'll go ahead. All right, we'll stop.
And I'm gonna tell you because the key part is, and
jump in the ring.
I know you gonna do this when I tell you. All anybody got to do, go listen very close to the interview that Zeke and Pollard did together. It answers all your questions. It really does. On selfishness, on carrying the ball, on him like realizing that he needed to do less to protect each other. Pollard and Zeke know they mean.
Do you really think he would dim his light?
Bro, all you got to go do is listen to the interview. Because he went through that. He went through that.
People can talk it, but we'll see if he can walk.
Right.
You know, I feel you though.
Let me give you the answer.
Because the paycheck might dim it for him.
Was clear that he went through that masturbation in his head. This is what's clear about it. Because he did take way less snaps last year. And he did say in 2021 that he struggled with it. But he realized in 2022 that sharing was actually prolonging his career. Yeah, so the boogeyman that we fear has already been addressed and played out in the snaps. So because there's a lot of people got concerns on politics, him being a progress stopper. I'm going to address all of that, bro, in detail. All right. So
when his phone ring and they said, okay, we're gonna bench him for the first opening drive or something like that. You gonna bring that up,
guy, bro? I swear to God.
I know.
He's a super.
I'm not dogging.
I'm gonna tell you
Zeke
what
now,
Pollard said. He said, "What's the most important attribute you like about Zeke?" He said, "Team first." He's selfless, is what he called him. Selfless. Do y'all remember they put Zeke in fullback? I'm gonna be honest. That would have been something I would have been like, nope. Just and he lead blocked for Pollard. I would have been like, no, you going too far, Kelly Moore. No, that's an insult now. No, Zeke did it. So it's a boogeyman. We afraid of a boogeyman that don't exist. But I'm gonna break it down.
Hey, before you break that down, I got 4 guys on this team. If they do this number and they bow, then I no longer want them on the team. There's Hunter Lupke, there's Rico Didal, there's Malik Davis, and as well as there's Rojo. If they say, okay, Zeke coming back, we'll let him get that first start in rotation in front of us, I don't want them on the team at all. I want those boys to look at Ezekiel, Elliott, and say, hey, this is your job to earn now, baby.
I love it.
You ain't on the team. You got to be with it. And I'm not saying that he can't beat those boys out of that spot, but that's the mentality that I would want those guys to bring out there for training camp. Yep. They better not be folding his clothes. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thought.
But that's all fine and dandy law until Jerry Jones see them numbers with the new 15 jerseys flying off the rack. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Them jerseys start flying off the racks. Everybody like, nah, you got your spot back. You know what I'm saying?
And that Hunter kid got a nice little bonus to stick around here, so he might be good since he's a little fullback around here, so he might be all right.
Yeah, I think he is okay. All right,
yeah, he all right.
Get into our final words. I'm gonna kick it off. All right. So on the final word, first, thank you, Kevin, for coming through. I appreciate you as the president. I really do mean that when I say that. Like, ever since I saw that video, I was like, that's our guy. Because, see, I take pride in being a second-generation Cowboy fan. And to realize that you are a third, I'm like, well, I know he crazy. Because I'm crazy. Right? I get emotional sometimes.
Oh, boy.
Right. And I know that's what that moment was. That was a moment to where it was like, oh, I just got to say it.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it. And thank you for having us and us having you. And I really enjoyed it, man. That's our final word. Hopefully we do this again soon. So that's my final word. All right. We got your OC.
Kevin, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule and talking football with us. So yeah, man, you're esteemed, very, very highly recognized journalist, man, and just thank you for your time. Really, really enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward for what we're going to see in training camp. I think a lot of the questions and debates and arguments won't really be answered until we get down to training camp and we see a couple of preseason games, right? And so now we're just giving our opinions about things as we see them and what we think, but it'll be a fun journey to see. And please, guys, don't forget to hit the like button. Follow Kevin Gray Jr. on Twitter if you have not already, man. Great work, great content, man. And follow all the rest of the talent as well, man. That's my final word.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, man. I'm proud to be a father. I've got 3 amazing children, man. They're my engine for everything that I do, man. So salute to all the fathers out there, man. But Kevin, thanks for joining on, man, this show, man. We appreciate you. And a lot of people don't know, we didn't get into your story, but Kevin's one of us, man. He's a guy who came out of the trenches and paved his own way. So he kind of blazed his own trails. So that's important to show. So a lot of people watch our channels and say, hey, I want to do this. Kevin is one of those guys. It wasn't just spoon-fed to him. He was handed. He's a passionate Cowboys fan, 3rd generation, as he just mentioned, from Kansas City. Unfortunately, he just went to Missouri. You know what I'm saying? But
I made the right choice. I made the right choice.
That's all that stuff, right? But yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. Incredible work you guys do over there on 105 through the Fan. Every time I land in Dallas, the first thing I turn on as soon as I get off the plane. But yeah, overall, man, I think that the Cowboys are in a good spot. I'm excited about this offseason. I like the additions. I'm okay with the draft, and we're gearing up for camp, man. But I'm excited to see where we're going to head it, man. But salute to all the fathers out there. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. That's my final word.
Kevin, real quick, plug everything that you got going, because I have a promo here for everything. The Gray Area Podcast, what you got going on YouTube, and obviously the Get Right. So just real quick, before you give your final words, I want to give you a chance to tell everybody all the different places they can find you and your work.
I appreciate that, man. You can definitely find me on Twitter. I do most of my ranting and raving there on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Also on Instagram and Facebook at the same handle at Kevin Gray Sports there. Of course, you can find me on 105 through the Fan when the Rangers are, not doing their thing, 7 to 11, Monday through Friday with my partner Reginald Attitude. A special shout out to him. My guy Reggie is a talented individual, man, and nice. I love my guy. Reginald Attitude. So you can catch us there 7 to 11, especially when football season gets back going. We'll be on there every single day. And then Of course, you can find my podcast. I got a couple podcasts that I'm doing these days. My own personal one is called The Gray Area, as you mentioned. You can get that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast for free there. It's kind of my ability to talk things outside of the Cowboys or the Mavericks. I get to talk about everything else going on in the world of sports since I do that on the radio on a nightly basis. And then I also do a Mavericks podcast called Inside the Mavs. I cover the Dallas Mavericks for the station as well. So the Mavericks are hot right now. I got a lot of things going on. So my podcast, Inside the Mavs, you can get that anywhere. You get podcasts for free as well. And I love, going on other people's shows as well. Enjoy it. As Tuck mentioned, part of my content creation journey is being able to get started the way from a grassroots level. So, but yeah, that's where you can find all my stuff at, man. And yeah, got a lot going on out there for sure.
All right. And what's your final words, Kevin?
Man, first of all, thank all of you, Law, Tuck, OC, Big Game, Boss. Like, y'all are the lifeblood. I was telling Aisha Morrison this the other day. Y'all are the lifeblood of Cowboys Nation. I was telling BLS this as well, that what y'all do and what we do as content creators is kind of what the lifeblood of this whole Cowboys content creation experience is. And I just love the passion that Boss, you and Law and everyone else who does Cowboys content, because it's a saturated space as it is already doing Cowboys content. But for y'all's ability, Vach, Skywalker, Steele, all of you who have created and carved out your own space here, y'all motivate me. Y'all may not know, but y'all motivate me, because if I'm feeling like, man, I can't do my podcast, I don't feel like doing it, I see Law, I see Boss, I see OC, I see Tuck. I'm like, oh man, they doing it, so I need to get my ass out here and do it myself. So y'all are a motivating factor for me, and I just want to say thank you to you guys, because without you, this Cowboys experience would not be what it is, especially in today's era of content creation. Y'all are doing it, man. I'm so excited just to be even associated with y'all. I call y'all like the Avengers of Cowboys Nation, because when y'all assemble, look, I mentioned Skywalker, Vibes, when all y'all get together, it's like the Avengers come together. And I'm just like, look, I'm just as big a fan as everybody else, because I want to tune in because of the entertainment that y'all bring. So that's my final word, is thank y'all for all the things that you do, because y'all are incredible content creators, and I thoroughly enjoy the work that y'all do, man, for sure.
Wow, thank you so much.
Indeed, man. Wow. Let's go, man.
Let's go, man.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Man, you got me pumped up now, man. The Avengers. Hey, in the chat, y'all let me know which Avenger I am. You know what I mean?
Got the best beard.
Yeah, the bearded one, right? I appreciate you, man. And happy Father's Day to all of you all. And shout out to you again, Kevin Gray, for calling us out, man, when we was out there at Oxnard last year. You gave a shout out to us on the radio of us acknowledging us of doing some great work out there. Not good work, but great work. So that goes a long way, man. And that's our currency right there. Being able to be seen by those who are already inside the Cowboys networks or what have you on that particular level. And I really appreciate that. That goes a long way. And we would never forget that, especially for what we do, man. We get it out of the mud. They call us new media. And we try, we try to give it from a perspective from the ground up. And a lot of people gravitate to that. Even if we are wrong with it, we're not afraid to sit back and say, you know what, we were wrong about that dude, and then we will circle back and give evidence of why we were right on certain things. So this round table right now, what we talked about today was excellent, especially about the offensive line. I can't wait to see if OC is right, and I can't wait to see if Dallas Cowboys is right about Ezekiel Elliott, So all of those things collide together, and it generates content. I've been telling people for a year now, you got content, and then you got creators. Those two things can be separate, but what a content creator does is he creates the content, and we find stuff out there and we talk about it, and people tend to listen to what we have to say. So it goes a long way, and this community is growing, even though I want these other guys, the Washington, the Eagles, and the Giants, be sure to tell your daddy, Dak Prescott, happy Father's Day, because they try to come at me, man. He's 27-7. So don't y'all leave now without telling Daddy Dak happy Father's Day now. I'm going to get on out of here with my final word, baby. But y'all already know where to find us there, man. On the final word. Come on, baby. Let's go. DC for life, not for short. Let's go, baby.
3, 2, 1, drop it.
You're listening to nothing but the best. Let's go.
Thank you for the shout out for the food and everything for Father's Day, man. Appreciate you.
That was the final word with special guests Kevin Gray Jr. and Jay Tuck. Let's go.
Jay Tuck.
It's that law, Captain America, man. Captain America law.
Hey, Jay Tuck.
Can we check or something?
Black Panther.
Tell the truth. How much confirmation we go get, bro?
We'll get a lot, man. We'll get a lot.
This is what I mean. That DC
and if it was
universe
if it was
is
up to
real.
little old me, do they pick?
Y'all just stay put.
A little something
Stay tuned, man. Stay tuned.
Kevin, thank you so much.
Oh, hey, man. Thank y'all, man. This is incredible, man. I really appreciate y'all having me on for sure, man. Thank you.
And it was on Father's Day, bro. Oh, my goodness.
We even get a chance to talk about the Mavs, man.
Hey, man, I let y'all talk about those Mavs, man. But you know it's Lakers, man. You know, I sit there and let y'all talk about that.
See
I'm
there.
That's come on, man.
You know what's funny on the intro? You showed my tweet as I said replace Tyron Smith with Tyler Smith, Pet Cat, University of Tulsa. But I'm not trying to replace Tyron yet. You know what I'm saying? Give me one more season with Tyron. Then replace it.
You one more season, huh? Hey, that contract is dope, though.
Yeah.
That Tyron Smith contract.
You know what that contract really says?
Give Zeke that contract.
That contract says that Steele is starting on that pup list.
Right.
True.
When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go hard, go home, go hard.
What'd you say, Big Dog?
Bradley is going to the Suns. Supposed to be traded to the Suns. All right. He gone, y'all.
Yeah, man. But happy Father's Day, everybody. Everybody that kicked back. Y'all make sure y'all go watch this one again. I know y'all spending time with y'all families, but when y'all headed to work in the morning, put that video on repeat. Watch the whole thing. Kevin Gray and Jay Tuck just gave us everything, man. It was a good show, good insight, good back and forth. Check it out again. Trust me, it's worth it.
So the Cowboys just selected Jake Ferguson.
What's up?
129.
Is it good to go see the Flash, or should I wait?
I love the.
I haven't seen it, but I heard it's legit, so I will go see it. I will go see it. Okay. I'm about to gear out. I'm about to be out of the country all this week, so I'm about to be on vacation, man.
He can do all of it. He can block.
No days off, though, man. You still gonna be working, you know.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
For real, I know you, son. I already talked to you, Tuck, like, oh, I can do that show from my phone.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I know.
That's Prescott, proven leader, man.
No
hard to
days
go
off.
home.
Good. No days off.
Go hard, go home, go hard, go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go home, go hard, go